All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. My name is Matt Molinax. I'm the Executive Director of the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization. I want to welcome you to the second of 3 public meetings we're having for our long-range transportation plan update. This evening, we're in 3rd floor conference room at Ranson City Hall. Last night, we were at the Martinsburg Public Library, and next Tuesday, we will be at the Washington County Free Library in Hagerstown. So I want to thank you those who are joining in person as well as joining online. So we're here tonight. In addition to myself, we have Kevin Donahue with the MPO staff. He is our transportation planner. And then we have our consultants here with Michael Baker International, who helped development of this plan, a lot of technical work. So we have Jim Frazier, we have who you'll be hearing from shortly. We have Rebecca Banker, and we have Daniel Bobrick. Sorry about that. Dan B. Very good. So again, I want to thank you all for attending this evening, and we will go ahead and get started. So the purpose of this presentation, this meeting, is to talk a little bit about the long-range transportation plan process, which we are naming affectionately Direction 2050. So this evening, we're going to introduce you to the process. We're going to talk about the goals and components that go into a long-range plan. We're going to review some of the projects that are in our current long-range plan, which is called Direction 2045. We'll talk about the survey that's out right now through the online platform MetroQuest that's available through June 30th. And then we'll talk about the remaining schedule in finalizing our area's long-range transportation plan. Okay. So to introduce the long-range plan, first I have to introduce our organization. So the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle MPO is a federally designated and funded regional transportation planning agency that covers Jefferson and Berkeley counties in West Virginia, as well as Washington County, Maryland. Across the U.S., there are a little over 400 MPOs that are created wherever the census designates an urbanized area. And so we are the MPO that covers the urbanized area of, again, Jefferson, Berkeley, and Washington counties. So our mission statement is we want to provide a cooperative forum for regional collaboration, planning and public decision-making for short and long-term solutions that support mobility needs, economic development, environmental sensitivities, and multimodal connectivity. Multimodal being different modes of transportation, not just traditional vehicle, but bike, ped, and transit. We want to do all this for a safe and secure and efficient transportation system. And so the long-range transportation plan is a document we are federally required to produce, and it will outline a regional vision and strategy to address our area's long-term transportation needs, looking now into the future 20 to 30 years. And then you see on the far right of the slide, just kind of an org chart that the MPO has. So we have an interstate council that's made up of city and county elected officials, members of the West Virginia and Maryland Departments of Transportation, and our local transit providers from Washington County Transit and the Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority. They are given advice by a technical advisory committee made up of local planners and engineers. We have an ad hoc air quality advisory committee that meets as needed, and then we have myself and staff that were identified earlier. So, all right, thank you. So here's a map of our planning area. You see in gray the 3 counties I mentioned previously. What you see in the kind of the light green is the municipal boundaries of the cities that are in our tri-county region. And then the darker green are maps showing the urbanized area. So once the urbanized area is designated by the census, the counties that border or that urbanized areas within become the planning area. And you can probably see that part of our urbanized area sneaks into Franklin County, Pennsylvania, and through an agreement with the Chambersburg MPO, they handle the transportation planning for that area, and we collaborate across state boundaries. You can also see we purposely showed urbanized areas outside of ours to give an idea again about those 400 plus MPOs across the nation, where there's one in Winchester, Virginia. You see the city of Frederick, which is actually connected to DC. MPOs, while they may not be well known, are fairly prevalent in the US. Okay, next slide. All right, so the role and purpose of the long range transportation plan. So We're required to update it every 5 years at least. We will, usually in our region, we do that every 4. And it's a vision for the future transportation system in our region. We seek to identify critical needs and challenges. It provides a framework for decision-making. Hey, come on in. Decision-making for future transportation investments. It does include a financially constrained project list, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that is and why that's important. It incorporates a proactive public participation process. And again, we thank everyone who's here at Ranson City Hall and those of you joining online or by phone. It evaluates multimodal connectivity and it ensures environmental compliance and transportation safety. We have a fairly robust safety portion of the long-range plan. And then the images that you see on the right of this slide are the covers of our current and previous long-range plans. We've kind of kept the direction moniker, and then we update that as we continue to move 5 years out into the future as with our future horizon, planning horizon. All right. And then before we get too much further, just want to say anytime you can follow the progress on this update. So we have, you see on the left, this is our long-range transportation plan website. It's HEPMPO direction2050.com. This presentation will be posted there shortly. You can find documents, you can find interactive maps of projects in the current plan. You can follow along there. As well as we have our regular website, hepmpo.net. All the updates on the long-range plan are posted there as well, in addition to the normal planning activities that we're involved in our region. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Frazier with Michael Baker.
Thanks, Matt. As we get through the presentation, if you do have a question or a comment, you can speak out, or you can also type a comment into the chat box, and we will address those as they come on. What I want to talk to is really, the purpose of our public outreach is the integration of how we integrate the public into the long-range plan process. You see from the chart, there's 2 boxes in red. Those are the public opportunities. The first is ongoing now, which is part of our public outreach survey. It's a 30-day, it's active for 30 days. It started June 1st and it will end on June 30th. As part of the process, after we finalized the surveys, we were moving into our transportation needs assessment and developing the project needs or the project visions or the vision for the region of project needs. And then once we have all the projects and identified, then we go into a financial forecast of what would be expected in the next 25 years or 30 years, as far as federal funds, state funds that would be likely used for projects. And then once we identify those forecasts, we take the projects and we go through a prioritization process where we scale it against other priorities and needs for the region, and actually score each project. And cost dependent, those are the type of projects that would move forward and go into our fiscal constraint list of projects. We will provide you show you an example of the last plan of what those projects in Jefferson County look like. And from there, we will draft a final plan. And before it goes to the Interstate Council for approval, we will have another 30-day comment for public comment period. And we'll also have 3 more public meetings, 1 per county, which you will be able to provide comments on the plan itself before it gets adopted and submitted to federal highways. Just a quick look at the population and employment forecast for the region. You can see the solid lines are for the last 20 years of the growth by county. And in Jefferson County, you see there's about 36% growth since since the year 2000, and it's expected to grow another 35%. Obviously, the Jefferson and Berkeley counties in West Virginia are a very high rate of population and employment growth, and is shown to be one of the fastest growing areas in the whole state of West Virginia. The interesting point on the population is we're forecasting within, year 2040, 2045, that the population in Berkeley County will actually exceed the population in Washington County, which it never has before. And the employment is also steady between 48% in Jefferson County to 64% in Franklin County. I'm not Franklin, I'm sorry, Berkeley County. Okay. Next, I was going to talk about the goals and objectives that are part of the long-range plan and for the region. And just to give you an overview first, we have goals identified with specific objectives, and how this ties in together is with the goals is basically the vision of 7 areas of emphasis for the region, and then you have defined objectives or elements that support those goals, and those objectives are tracked by meeting against performance standard targets. There are performance measures that have been set by the state and adopted by the region. They include safety measures, number of fatalities in the region, congestion, the congestion totals, or how bad the congestion is, and those are identified, and we would be measured against those performance measures. And then to identify strategies and policies to help meet those performance measures, is we have specific strategies that either at the county or local level or at the MPO level that identifies approaches that will help meet these performance measures. Our 2050 goals for Direction 2050. There are 7 goals, and the reason we're giving a little bit more detail here, these are actually part of the public outreach survey, where you will be asked to rank out of these 7 goals your top 3, and that will be part of the survey that we are requesting. But just to go through each one quickly, system preservation obviously is maintaining the roadways and other facilities that support mobility through the region. Traffic congestion, how well is the transportation system helping the congestion in the region. Multi-modal transportation to include bike lanes, bike facilities, as well as sidewalks, and of course transit as well. Measures to improve the economic prosperity in the region and what opportunities they may present. Land use, identifying smart growth practices, how growth is occurring in the region and how growth is planned. Environment, minimizing the impacts on the transportation network, especially with resiliency and vulnerabilities to flooding. And then roadway safety, obviously a high priority. The plan will identify potentially unsafe corridors that can be, obviously we want to be able to reduce safety, whether it's the access to a facility with sidewalks, better lighting. It could be a number of things that would actually improve the safety around the region. So those are the goals, and we'll show you how those will be incorporated into the survey. Next, we're talking just some forces that are affecting transportation this time, and I think a lot of you're aware of what's going on, especially with the infrastructure bill. The current infrastructure bill expires at the end of September of this year, and reading the news, I know that the new administration has been pushing to try to get a new infrastructure bill in place. And once that comes, that provides the funding, the federal funding to all the states. So it's obviously a high priority. And what that may bring, whether that, what the total amount of dollars that will come in through that, and how that funding will be used. I-85 has been a high priority, especially in the Maryland side, of getting the widening of I-81. Obviously, the cost of that far exceeds any projected funding that we have in the region. So we need help from federal sources and grants to potentially continue on with the widening. And the impacts of understanding the Census 2020 data once that's released. We expect that to start coming out very shortly, and to see how that the growth and the populations and other measures that the census provides will be integrated throughout the plan. And then we have our COVID-19 impacts and how over the last year, the impacts of the pandemic and how it changed our lives, of how we work, how we commute, and how we work. So we've asked a few questions on the impacts, how it personally impacts you, and how it will affect you in the future. How soon do we get back to normal? Or are we ever going to get back to normal the way it was before the pre-pandemic days? There's also a lot of technology advances that will get incorporated. A lot of ITS and intelligent transportation systems, better signage, better awareness on the roads, that especially on when incidents occur and there's detours that get activated, and how traffic is moved throughout the region can provide a lot of advantages by using the technologies versus increasing the capacity on the highways. And then also the number one issue, and it's been a troublesome, especially with the funding shortfalls in the transportation sector. It's always a challenge. States have a challenge, federals have a challenge, and how do we maintain those funding levels to incorporate what is needed for the region. And this slide shows some areas of emphasis that will be incorporated into the plan. A lot of asset management and resiliency. Obviously, we want to know flooding vulnerability areas and what measures can be taken to reduce flash flooding and other dangerous dangerous activities related to storms, and also maintaining the assets that we do have. And system preservation is also more and more percentage of the funding is that we're getting dedicated to systems preservation, and how that can be incorporated. How are the bridges in the region, and how many of those bridges are deficient and need to be maintained properly. Traffic congestion is always an issue, especially along the interstates, and identifying potential bottleneck areas. Traffic and active transportation. The region has done a lot of work in this sector, especially with transit, and you see that through the ridership and the transit agencies, both EPTA and the Washington County commuter. You see additional bike facilities being identified throughout the region, and signage. Freight movement in this region is all a high priority. The additional warehouses, and obviously the through traffic along the interstates. So there is obviously a big economic driver in the region is freight. But we're also looking at it, other new things. One is the regional travel connections, and the way we're looking at this is looking at origins and destinations, and how travel is occurring throughout the region, municipality to municipality, county to county. So getting a better understanding of how those connections are happening, and what the actual travel habits are. We'll also be looking at lower cost operational strategies. The MPO just completed a TSMO study, a traffic systems management operation study along the interstates, and those type of strategies can be incorporated elsewhere and on other the major corridors throughout the region. And finally, there's transit and travel demand management activities to maintain and identifying the needs, especially on the transit side. Okay. This is just an example. And the intent here is not to go through these individual projects, but these were the fiscally constrained projects from the last plan. And what we want to highlight here is the 6 projects and highlighted in yellow, just to show you how effective the planning activities are. Those 6 projects have been advanced in the process of being toward construction, and those 6 projects have received funding through engineering, and some have already started construction as well. So this is like the start point of a project coming to fruition, that a project starts in a plan, moves to the tip, and then it moves to construction. And so that was the point mainly, is to show that how 6 out of the almost 50% of the projects are moving forward already. So, and they will have a new list as a result of this plan. Okay. Now just going to walk you through our survey. This is available online. Like Matt said, that you can find links to that on his website and through the MPO or through the long range plan website. There's also been notices in the public. It's on his Facebook page as well. But starting the survey, it is done with what we call the platform is MetroQuest, and this MetroQuest is, we've used it before in this region, but it's very user-friendly and interactive, and it doesn't take too long to complete the survey. To date, we've had over 460 responses as of last week, which is tremendous considering the last 5 years ago, we did this survey, a similar type of survey, and there was only like 350 total. So we've already far exceeded the number of respondents. All right, the first page is just, there's those 7 goals. So we want you to highlight your top 3, whether it's traffic relief, traffic congestion relief, or it's more bike facilities, multimodal. You would just click on the goal and just slide it above the line. And once you get 3 on there, then that's all you need to do on this page. We go to the next tab, and this is a way for us to get an understanding of the impacts of COVID and how that relates to your job, how you commute, how are you working at home now, and what do you foresee your commuting patterns will be in the future. So there's 6 boxes you would just check down, and there's just drop down boxes, and you can select from. There is an option of different things to pick there. So we're hoping this will be a very effective tool for us, understanding how the region has been affected by COVID. Obviously, we understand the limitations that have occurred. Now we want to see it, and I see how we plan on moving forward out of this. So. Next tab is what we call the interactive map. You can zoom in on this map and identify, and on top we have different tabs where you could just drag those tabs into a specific location on the map. If you know of a roadway that needs that is not working as well as it should, whether or not it's it needs a turn lane or a stop sign or a new light, drag that to that location, and once you drag it, it'll give you an option to provide a comment. And you can provide a comment, and then that's it once you get there. And you can put, whichever one you want to do. You can do multiple ones. You can just do one. But you have areas of concern. and the more that you can put on there, the better it would help us grow. And finally, this is just a few questions about yourself, your zip code, your age, and if you want to stay involved, you can provide your email and you will become part of the MPO's mailing list. So any news or announcements that come out, you will be notified through email as well. You can also like the MPO on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll get feeds from that. That's always, I feel funny saying that, but follow me on Twitter.
But no Twitter, but we are on YouTube.
And YouTube, that's true, yeah. In fact, the recording of this will actually be on YouTube at some point. So, all right. Our schedule, we know we're getting close to finishing up fiscal year 2021 at the end of June. We see there's some meeting dots on the top. The majority of the work and the work of developing the plan will occur in the next 6 months. And then the draft plan will be developed around March timeframe, and either next April or June, probably April, we'll have another 30-day public comment period followed with public meetings. And once those are complete, the final plan will go through the Interstate Council for formal adoption. And then that plan will get submitted to Federal Highways for approval by the end of next June. So that's the overall schedule. Like I said, there are opportunities for you to participate and follow the progress of the long range plan development. So. All right, from here, there's our contact information. You have Matt and Kevin from the MPO, and myself and Rebecca, Michael Baker. You can always email anyone here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Matt to ask for any comments.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Jim. So at this time, we're going to open up both in person and virtually any questions or comments from folks attending. If there was a question that you had when you came in about a specific project, it was something when you saw the slides that you had a question about maybe an acronym or a component, or if you had any problems with the survey, we're happy to take those. Either you can ask them in person here, or you can enter them to the chat. We'll be happy to address those now. Any questions online? No? Okay.
I do have a question.
Certainly.
Sure.
I'm still learning how, just like the focus of your whole territory and everything, like I filled out the survey that you just.
Oh, thank you.
And so when I was at that map portion, there's a specific road that I'm but I don't know that it belongs to you. I think I don't know who it belongs to. I think the road is maintained by the city that I live in. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
The map's everything. If I write down something, are you looking at that? Or
yes. Well, yes, we are looking at that. And so really how this comes together is we have the big part of this initial push is existing conditions. So it's all about the conditions of the road, crash data, pavement, congestion. So we use TomTom GPS data to get travel time reliability. Then we're forecasting based on the population employment growth. How do we see this growth impacting the system as it exists? And then simultaneously, as we look at that impact, we get a financial forecast from the DOTs, what funding they expect to be available for new construction in the next 30 years. And so then we have a prioritization model of projects that are either identified through the public, through county or city comprehensive plans, by the state or other sources. And then we come up with plan estimates. We try to cobble all that together. But to your question, so the NPO we don't own any of the roads. So probably, in West Virginia, it's all state, municipal, or private. And then while typically most of our projects are focused on roads that are on the federal aid system, we certainly do include projects that maybe are solely at the municipal level, and some even if a private road intersects with a public road somewhere. So is there so what's the road that?
Forest in Charlestown by the Memorial Park.
Oh, is that where Memorial Park where the pool is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the road that, I don't know if you remember there, but it has a topography of it. Really uses steep.
I
And so.
do you think that's a city street? Yes. Yeah, yeah. And certainly, you know, as your comments are provided, we do send those out to members of our technical advisory committee, which includes Mr. Hennessy, and yeah, so he'll be seeing those, and yeah, I know they just completed a big project where they did a citywide pavement assessment. I don't know if yeah, I don't know if I was thinking if that's a street maybe that's slated for resurfacing, if they could look at traffic calming, you know, maybe solutions along there, or have you witnessed a crash there or anything, or it's just systematically unsafe? Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a it's a highly used area by all modes of transportation. Like there's walkers, there's bicyclists. That area, there's an entrance into the park there. That's the only handicap accessible entrance other than the parking lot. So if you live in the neighborhood and you visit the park, you have to take that entrance. And it's in the middle of that road. There's no stop. There's no traffic coming at any time. There's no pavement markings for pedestrians. There's no even like don't park in front of this only ramp that goes into the park. Like there's nothing.
How's enforcement of speed over there?
It's not big. There's no, I don't think it's on the radar to even,
Okay.
I haven't complained, but I don't know that. But you have a survey. So
yeah, no. Well, and I'll tell you, we had, I don't know if my memory is serving me well, but when we did a regional bicycle plan in 2016, and we had identified along there, because it comes up, doesn't it swing up to like Morrington by the Board of Ed? Can you work backwards that way if you go west, or?
It's more down.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Which is, yeah, that's CR 34, yeah. 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 Well, I'll take a look, I mean.
Response.
Yeah. Oh, I can't.
Oh, so it's a,
request online, and we could give you the link.
oh, is that newly elected council member Ricketts?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, council member, for your comment. Okay. And we can take a look as well as that option, and we can double check where the extent of Jefferson Avenue, the state owns, terminates, because there are some odd ones where like a state will own a street right through, and not just a main street, right? All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Jefferson and Eastland are both weird because they're city and county, like alternating lots that some are, you know, you might call us and yes, you're in the county, but the next door is the city, and it's, you know, how we treat the sidewalks and everything, because we don't have any on the works department, the city does.
Right, that's right. Yeah, and I think too, the city on the sidewalk, I believe they have a program where property owners can apply for up to a certain amount of money, or maybe a certain percentage of match to do repairs, but I can't remember now. I used to have their comprehensive plan in my head, but I can't picture that map right now. But anyway, well, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. Very good. All right.
But the survey was really to fill out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, so any other questions or comments from any of the folks online? Okay, very good. So we do want to thank everyone for their time this evening. Again, the survey is out until June 30th. The survey, the public input we received to build a little bit on my previous answer to the question, the public input is an important part of our prioritization model. And so when we identify projects or we're considering projects, we're able to include whether or not it is a high priority. And we're also able to take that qualitative information of public priority, turn that into a number that then gets factored into the project's overall rating. And then that helps us either advocate for the project's advancement or it clues in West Virginia, the state DOT of the project's importance. So we do appreciate everyone that's completed the survey, and please continue to share that with your friends, neighbors, and colleagues. So with that, we will have one more public meeting next week on Tuesday in Hagerstown, similar format to this one. We'll take what we've heard and start to work on developing those project lists. And then when we come back for our public meetings and sharing the draft plan next spring, we'll be able to show you how the input we received, how we utilize that, and see if that's what you had in mind. So with that, this presentation again will be posted on the Long Range Plan's website. We want to thank you all for coming out this evening, and everyone have a great night.